Hey, this is Rich over at TVP Live with another quick tips tutorials brought to you by Photoshop Elements Tutorials Group. And let's jump right into today's poster. I want us to know how to get rid of the hair under the neck here. Sometimes the hairline happens to curl up under the neck when they're taking photograph, and this is what you end up with. So what we want to do is to get rid of that, we're going to use a couple different techniques, starting with the clone stamp tool. But before we do that, let's always open up a new layer to work on. So I'm going to click on this layer and then click on this button here, which opens up a new blank layer. So what we're adding here is going to be added to a new blank layer that we can later adjust. So let's go ahead and grab this clone stamp tool, and I want to grab something a little pretty big. Let's say like 350 point. That looks pretty good. Now let's hold the Alt button down here, and I'm going to grab somewhere around the neck, let's say right around here. And it's okay if it grabs a little bit of the other parts, because we can just erase that later. I'm going to start up here and just simply paint out the portion of the hair that we want to come out, and that looks pretty good. Now you can see that I obviously grabbed some of the jewels down here. If I turn off the bottom layer, you'll see it grabbed a little bit too much, but that's okay. We can easily edit that out now because it's on its own layer. Once I turn the bottom layer back on, I'm going to grab an eraser, and let's make this a big eraser, like, I don't know, like a 250 point eraser. And now I can just carefully erase out the portion that I don't want. And that includes all of this. And I actually want to follow the hairline right up above here. So I'm going to zoom in here. I'm going to lessen the opacity here to 50% so I can see the hairline underneath. Let's make the erase tool really small, like 50 points. And I'm going to erase this along the hairline like that. And boom. Now we get rid of the rest. How do we know where the rest is? We turn off the back layer, the lower layer, and I can bring the opacity of the upper layer back up to 100%. Now you see all that extra stuff that we can get rid of. I'm going to use the polygon tool and just simply make a polygon around everything I don't want. Double click here and hit delete. Turn the background back on, and of course we're still on top of her chin there. So let's go ahead and soften that up. Bring the opacity back down to 50%. Grab an eraser, small eraser, and let's erase along her chin line so that we keep that original chin line. And you can see it's erasing away little by little. And all I got to do is once again bring that opacity back up to 100%, turn off the background, and we can see exactly once again what we want to cut out, which is going to be all of this. I'll hit double click to close the marching ants and hit delete. And there we go. Let's turn the background back on. Let's see how it looks. Not too bad, but now we want to reintroduce the shadow that was here. You can see it's down on this part. So let's open up a new layer and grab the color picker tool and grab the very darkest part of a shadow. Actually, I'm just going to grab her dress down here because I want it to be that dark. Grab a brush. Let's make it small down here. Let's say about 250, and this is a soft brush. And we're going to just paint in a new layer there. Now we can take that layer, bring that down to almost 30% or so, take the eraser and paint back out what we don't want from that new layer. Once again, I'll turn everything else off, turn this layer back up to 100% to get rid of everything that we don't want. I deleted that portion. Let's turn everything back on. And all we got to do now is just bring the opacity back down to 0 and then just slightly bring it up little by little until it looks natural. And that's all it needs. I can do the same thing under her chin if we wanted to add shadow back. So I'm going to add a new layer, grab the paintbrush tool, and we're going to paint back in a small smudge. And then with the smudge brush, I can smudge in the rest, which will have it kind of meld into the original. That. Once again, let's bring that opacity down to like about 20%. We're going to paint out that portion that touches her chin. I'll bring up the opacity, and you can see right there with the polygon tool, and just simply delete, boom, what we don't want. And now we just can back out and now just take the opacity of that new piece and lower it to the point that we want to see it. Right around there is good. That's 20%. That looks good. I'm going to toggle this on and off. You see that? And there we go, and that's all there is to it. Let's look at the original picture. I'll turn everything off. There's the original picture. We added some skin using the clone stamp tool, and that's that part. Then we added a drop shadow on the left side of the hair, and that's this one. And finally we added an under chin shadow, and that's this one. And that's all there is to it. This is Rich, calling it quits, saying over and out.